You know, yeah, I mean, either you do it or you don't. You have it or you don't have it. And I've never seen him back away from, you know, anything that was taxing. He you know, makes the best effort that seemingly that he can, day in and day out. I don't, yeah, I just a young guy that comes to work every day and does the best he can.
Right now, Malik has the most touchdown catches by a K-State true freshman since Tyler Lockett in 2011. Has he become one of your more reliable wide receivers this season, even as a true freshman?
Well, I don't know if I would, you know, necessarily say that. I think, you know, guys like Dalton and Reuter and et cetera have been very, very reliable young guys, and it's not that that Malik is not. It's just that he hasn't been on the field enough and done it enough to know that, you know, that there's certain things that he can react to in the course of a ball game that just because of his youth and experience might not be able to do, and hasn't. You know, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, I guess. And the others are more consistent about that.
With the contributions he's been able to make to this point, will you expect him to start again on Saturday?
Remains to be seen. Yeah. We're just on Tuesday.
Would you expect him to play?
Would I expect him to play? If he's able to, we will. Yeah.
Coach, I'm sure you're well aware of how tight these battles against Iowa State have been since you made your return.
Mm-hmm.
So you won by an average of 7.5 points, and if you take out that 34-point win in 2013, drops down to 3.7 points per game. I mean, I guess, does that just speak to how intense K-State versus Iowa State can be at times, and how crucial it is to do the little things right along the way?
Well, yes. But I think it speaks highly to, you know, Iowa State and, you know, how competitive they, you know, have become over the years and the growth that they have made. I think, you know, I think they do a heck of a job, and it's not just us playing them close ball games. I mean, you look at, you know, they've beaten 2 ranked teams this year, and I think the losses, I can't tell you exactly what the scores were, but the losses were like, you know, 3 points, 10 points, 10 points, something like that. So, you know, they've been, with the exception of the Texas game, they've been in every game. And, you know, you've heard me say 100 times, you know, top to bottom, in my estimation, you know, this is as good a conference as you'll find, you know, from top to bottom. And so, you know, those of us that are somewhere near the bottom have the capacity to be able to compete with those that aren't. So.
And since 2009, I mean, there's been so many crazy games, I guess, between these two schools. You know, the block PAT in 2009, kind of the 2015 game unfolded here. But when you think of these battles, K-State and Iowa State, is it, I mean, tough to think about how many games have been decided by such simple things like that? You know, a timeout here and there, or not blocking a PAT, things like that.
Well, you know, it's not anything that I've given a great deal of thought to. I mean, other than, you know, from a strategic standpoint, or a fundamental standpoint, or schematically, you know, what could we do? You know, what makes us better? What allows us to maintain an edge or create an edge? You know, whatever the case may be, but. Do we, and I'm not sure where the question is going, but, you know, do we expect you know, a hard-fought, tight ball game? You know, of course. You know, I mean, we do every week, and you know, and that's a legitimate thought. I mean, they're a physical football team. They play hard. They're a team. You know, and that's why I appreciate Matt so much. You know, they're a team that they don't make mistakes. They are they're fundamentally very, very sound. Don't turn the ball over. They just don't make those mistakes that get people beat, and those are hard teams to play against.
Coach, in the situation with Malik Knowles, Lance Robinson, Phillip Brooks that are right on the redshirt line, how much input does the player have in whether or not they're going to play this week to utilize that? And what's the process of trying to determine that?
Well, if you know, as I've always said, you know, if a player doesn't want to play, he doesn't have to play. you know, that's a decision that they have to make. So.
And here, having gone through the first year with this redshirt rule the way it is, have your thoughts changed on any of it as you made the way through the year?
Well, my thoughts haven't changed. I mean, I've never been, you know, I've never really been in favor of it. You know, and people ask, you know, ask me, you've asked me, and I've, you know, stated all along that, you know, if you're trying to pick out 4 particular ball games that you could put in a young freshman, somebody that, you know, that you could get on the field and still preserve their redshirt year, you know, you're taking away the opportunity, particularly early in the season, you're taking away the opportunity to put a number 2 guy on the field to gain experience. So if you get at the end of the season and he has to step in because of injury or whatever the case may be, that he's got experience from, you know, throughout the course of the season, as opposed to somebody that then you get late in the season and you say, well, we can't play because he's, you know, we'll use up his redshirt year. So I don't, you know, I don't like the rule because of that, but I don't get to make them, so that's, so be it.
Will Lance Robinson and Phillip Brooks play on Saturday?
Possibility.
Coach, just to follow up, your preference is the previous redshirt rule with 0 games and you maintain a redshirt?
I mean, what would I prefer?
Yes.
Well, I think if you, the rule was in place and took into consideration injuries. You know, I think that's a big factor to go along with it. So, you know, I'd have to go back and revisit. And like I said, nobody other than yourself has asked me, so I haven't taken time to formulate any additional thoughts to it. But, you know, I prefer it, for the reasons that I indicate, I prefer it to be closer to what it was originally. Yeah.
What are your impressions of Brock Purdy's play as a freshman at Iowa State?
You know, I'm impressed for a number. I mean, he's a very fine athlete, throws the ball well, can run around. He's athletic, but I'm really impressed that at you know, a young age like that he can manage, you know, his system, you know, as well as he does. You know, seems like a young guy that just doesn't get him in the wrong things. He executes what he's asked to execute. Seems to do fine.
You've won 10 straight against Iowa State. You've won each of the last 3 times in Ames, yet head towards Saturday's game a double-digit underdog on the road. Do you feel like this K-State team has been an underdog all season, and how much does this team thrive on that underdog status?
Well, I think we've earned the right to be the underdog. I mean, just because we haven't played well consistently throughout the course of the year, so I don't take issue with that at all. You know, I think everybody responds a little different. Even, I mean, within the program, I mean, players, you know, for some it's motivational. For others, you know, they could care less. So I don't know that, you know, that I could speak knowledgeably in regards to their feelings about that. I don't pay any attention to it. Don't read in fact, I mean, I get more information in here than I do, you know, outside of here. So, yeah, who knows?
I see where Iowa State's 25th in scoring defense, which leads the Big 12. What's made Iowa State's defense so tough this season?
Well, again, you know, they're a very sound defensive football team. Schematically, they're very sound. They don't take a lot of chances, but at the same time, because they have that odd front, you know, package that we, you know, are seeing, you know, week in and week out in our conference. It's more prevalent, and they, you know, they can move guys around pretty well. They've got they do a lot of things with their linebackers that create some issues, and yet they still, you know, leave enough guys in coverage to be secure in their coverage and sound in their coverage, so they're not giving up. They're not a team that gives up big plays, and they play hard and aggressively. They're a good tackling football team. I think when you find teams like that you know, have to make plays in space because of the limited number they have on line of scrimmage, they do an excellent job, I think, of tackling there. And again, it's the fundamentals of it that make it happen.
What strikes How potent is the Cyclones' defensive gear inside the 20 when you examine them on videotape?
Well, I mean, it is, you know, pretty prevalent. I think there's somewhere in the vicinity of, well, I hit the percentage. We were just talking about it the other day. I can't remember what, you know, what it was. But anyway, I mean, yes, they're very productive there, and you know that matches up, unfortunately, not well for us, at least statistically looking at it, because we were down there 7 times in the ball game the other day, and ended up with 4 field goals. So we left, I don't know, 30+ points on the table by not being able to get the ball in the end zone. So that matched up with the fact that they've had a great deal of success keeping people out of the end zone is something that we've got a lot of work to do.
This will be, I guess, the second week in a row that players won't be up here talking to us. I can't remember you ever making that decision before. Why now this week do you feel like that was the best thing?
No, they got better things to do.
Okay. And on the broadcast the other day, the broadcasters quoted you as saying something is in their meetings along the lines of, if the fans, players, and president don't want me anymore, I'll be gone. It just kind of came out of the blue on the telecast. Can you tell us, clear that up, where that conversation came from?
I don't know. I mean, I've shared that with you in here. I mean, most of you have asked at some point in time, you know, and what would cause me to make the decision? And I've always said the same thing. You know, if I was not wanted and didn't feel like I was having an impact on the lives of young people, and my family wasn't interested in me continuing, then I certainly wouldn't. So I didn't say anything to them that I don't know what was on the broadcast, but I didn't say anything to them that I haven't said to you.
In terms of the defensive play this year, there certainly has been, at least when you just look at the raw numbers, kind of a big difference in terms of how they played here versus on the road. Is that just a random thing, or is there really anything too that you guys you maybe feed more off the energy of the crowd at home as a defense? Or?
It's a good question. I don't, you know, I would hate to think that it's, you know, that we would play, you know, differently. You know, part of it can be, and part of it is, I would be remiss if I didn't say, you know, great appreciation. I mean, we didn't have a lot of fans in the stand because of the weather the other day. I hope it was because of the weather. But you know, our players love to play at home. I know that. I love to play at home, and I love to play in front of, you know, the support that we have. And part of it is who you play. You know, sometimes, you know, you play away against a better opponent than you might have at home. It may have something to do with, I don't know, you'd have to look up the, you know, the stats on that. But, you know, and I think, you know, playing on the road is, you know, for us, it's a matter of really trying to be attuned to, you've heard me say this so many times, is keep the game between the white lines so that, you know, anything outside of that does not have an impact, whether it's here or away, you know, so that when you do travel, you know, you have the capacity to do that. You know, if you let your mind get with the fans here, then on a greater scale, then you're probably going to let that happen when you travel. And on the road, that's not always the best thing.
As a follow-up to that, how much of Saturday's defensive performance do you credit to Blake being so much more comfortable in his role now? Is that something you think you guys could have done in week 2, or is that something that's completely irrelevant?
Well, I'm not sure where the question is going, but, you know, I think, you know, we played well for a number of different reasons. I think number one, and the most significant to me, is that we have just, with a blip here and there, we have done what we design and desire to do, and that is we've improved, you know, week in and week out. We've just gotten better and better and better and better, and that's why you practice, and that's why, you know, hopefully you're a little bit better as you go through the season, you know, week in and week out. They've done that, and I think our coaches have done a splendid job as well, all of them, and in that respect. You know, you got to make the right decisions about, you know, what you put on the field, in addition to players being able to, you know, play the schemes. So, you know, it's a combination of all those things.
Do you anticipate both quarterbacks being available this week?
It's only Tuesday, so I don't, you know, this, our injury list is a day-to-day process. I can't tell you right now.
I was also wondering, it seems like one or the other has been, had injury issues throughout. How many games do you think you've had both of them maybe available at full strength this year, or do you have any idea?
Well, you know, early in the season, obviously, that to a certain degree we did. I don't have the number. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't tell you exactly, you know, how many, but few and far between, it seems like.
And how big a challenge is that when you're basically going, it seems like a different guy week to week?
Well, I don't know about the challenge. Does it create some issues? To a certain degree it does, but you know, both of them have, you know, somewhat similar capabilities. You know, as I talked about very early in the season when we met, that, you know, I thought, you know, when you look at it, most people want to say Skyler throws it and and Alex runs it, and I've always said I think Skyler can run it as well and Alex can throw it as well. So they both have the ability to be multifaceted, and so what's the point? The point is that either one of them kind of fits into, you know, whatever the scheme might be. You don't have to change up the offense in order to accommodate which quarterback's on the field.
Someone asked Skyler after the game the other day was if he put any stock in the fact that, you know, he had so much success last year against Iowa State, especially, I mean, throwing a game-winning touchdown as time expired. And I just asked him, you know, is that something that you feel like gives you good vibes when you go back to face this same team, you know, this year? And he didn't really seem to put any stock in that at all. I mean, are you someone who believes, I mean, you've had so much success against Iowa State, does that make you feel a little bit better heading into a game? That, hey, I mean, we've beaten these guys before. It makes it a little more, just gives you a better feeling heading into a game like that.
Well, it's better than the alternative, for sure, but I can't tell you that has, you know, as I've said so many times, you know, last year doesn't really impact this year, and, you know, I believe that, right or wrong. I think it's what we do, how we prepare, and how we play, and that's true for Skyler as well as it is for everybody else. But, I mean, you're right, he did, you know, he came in, he played well, we're down, I don't know what, 11 points with, I don't know, around 8 minutes to go in the ball game, and he, you know, leads us down, scores, leads us down again, and puts it in the end zone on the last snap. So, you know, that was a good feeling then. But we can't live off of that. That's.
And I heard, you know, you mentioned yesterday on the teleconference that you thought that, you know, Kansas hiring Les Miles is a good hire. What do you think is going to be the biggest injection into their program with him? Is it just the credibility of him having won a national championship? Is it his experience in the Big 12? Or just the buzz of having an established, you know, big-name coach there now?
Well, probably all of the above, I think, will have an impact on their fan base. Yeah.
I know you talked about him a lot this year, but Alex Barnes, when you sit back and look at just the breadth of everything he's done this season, 1,000 yards, and still turning out good place for you, what's impressed you most about him?
What impresses me most about Alex is his, you know, approach and his attitude to the game and the preparation for the game. You know, you've heard me talk about a variety of different guys who, you know, every moment of every practice you're getting their very best effort, and it carries over into game day. And the same is true for Alex. I mean, you've seen him, those of you that, you know, follow us, you've seen him, you know, play, and you see every time he carries the ball, he's aggressive, he runs hard, he's competitive, and he's like that in practice every day. And that is very impressive to me, you know, when young guys can do that in this day and age.
Coach, you guys have won 2 straight. Do you feel like you have some momentum heading into Ames?
Well, it's again, it beats the alternative. You know, what impact that has, remains to be seen. you know, I'd ask me after the ball game.
Bill, you might, you go back so far, you remember the old Big 8, the 12-team Big 12, and now the round robin in the Big 12. How hard is it for you to achieve your goals compared to those other two, playing the round robin, having to play everybody every year?
Well, you know, I think, you know, everybody has their opinion on it. I've always been very vocal. I say very vocal. I've answered the question when asked, you know, in regards to how I feel about it. And I'm only speaking for me and for Kansas State. You know, everybody has a different opinion, and everybody's looking after their own program, and their feelings would be based on what's best for their program, and I concur with that. You know, what I have always felt was best for Kansas State was the way we had divisional play in the Big 12 Conference, and we had two 16 divisions, and you played, and then the two divisional champions played each other, and I thought that was in our very best interest, and that's a model that I prefer, but that doesn't mean that's the best for anybody else, and it doesn't mean that's the best for the conference, you know. So but it's a personalized thing. It's what I feel is best for Kansas State.
It is what it is, I guess. And with all due respect, I might be the only other person in this room who was at your first game. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to two publications calling for your retirement, a story about you withholding bowl rings, and I've got a player on the record saying scholarship checks were withheld in the past. How do you respond to that? Is that fair? Is it accurate? Is it nothing?
Well, you know, anything that we have done, in my estimation, has been fair. You know, there's certain things that we do that are relative to discipline and not doing the things that you're supposed to do, not taking care of your business, a variety of different things, whether it happens to be, you know, personal behavior, whether it happens to be not taking care of your financial obligations to the university or anywhere else, and there are consequences. And yeah, so we do have consequences for things that are inappropriate in regards to, you know, behavior.
The retirement talk, did you read those stories?
I haven't read any. I'm sure that, you know, after we lost a couple of ball games that there are probably a lot of them out there, but yeah, like I say, during the season, I really don't, never have, you know, win or lose. You know, I don't read this stuff. So.
But when you think about Iowa State over the years since you've been here, whether they had Troy Davis or when Paul Rhodes was coaching and now to Matt Campbell, what's unique about game planning for a Matt Campbell team to previous Iowa State teams that you've had to deal with?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I've always seen Iowa State, you know, pretty much the same. I think, thinking back, I'd have to, you know, reflect back on some previous notes or think about it a little bit, you know, to define, you know, what significant difference there might be, you know, either schematically or philosophically between Matt and the other coaches that have been there. But you know, more often than not, I mean, we played close, as was indicated here, you know, we played close ball games against them, you know, when Matt wasn't there. You know, so they're, I mean, to me, it's, you know, part of it is kind of the nature of the community of the state of Iowa, of that program, you know, not unlike Kansas State, I think, State University, you know, ag school to a certain degree, having that, you know, blue-collar mentality, roll your sleeves up and go to work, and being from the part of the country where that's somewhat prevalent. A variety of different things, I think, like that.
I know the preference is obviously to win this week, go 6-6, and go to a bowl that way, but if by some chance you were invited to a bowl at 5-7, do you think the team would be open to doing that?
I don't know. You know, we'll approach that when we get to that point. But If that were the case, I would, as I've always done, I would let the players make that decision.
So it'd be like a team vote, like you mentioned years ago.
Mhm.